Hey, what's up? You know what time it is. You already know. It's time to put in the work. The daily work. You know, showing you could be committed to yourself and your own growth while you also help clean up your community and your society. Okay, and that politics are not scary. Strong men don't avoid politics. Strong men have a duty to participate, okay, and hold.
Mr. Gentleman from Louisiana is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you,
Look
Chairman
at this.
Jordan, for doing
Look
such
at
an
this.
extraordinary job on all of this. For 43 long...
I'm about to break down how pathetic this little weasel is. Okay, we're going to talk about how pathetic this little weasel is and what's going on today. Then we're going to get our work in and hopefully do our part for the day to talk about all of the trash that this cult is trying to spread through our society. All right, let's get into it. Are conservatives defending Epstein, or do they want to release the files? How are you going to have it both ways? So we're about to see Mike Johnson sit here and preach to all of us like the Republicans have always wanted to release the Epstein files. Okay? But then we've got Megyn Kelly out here on other channels, which we'll see later. Megyn Kelly is out here defending Republicans sleeping with 15-year-old girls. What? Trump is overtly giving convicted child predator and trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell preferential treatment in prison. His personal attorney met with Ghislaine Maxwell, and then she went from one of the worst prison situations you could have to one of the best. And this little down low, closeted, spineless cotton candy boy, man, is gonna sit here and act like we don't see all of that. He's on the floor of Congress talking about Republicans are for full transparency and protecting the victims. That's what he's talking about today. We're gonna talk about how this cult uses little disgusting nothing. I can't even call him a man. Like, what is this? This is not a man. This represents you, Louisiana, Republicans. I'm editing myself to not make this video too vulgar. All I can tell you is something like that would never face me in any type of way. Not intellectually, not in a man-to-man debate, not in any kind of competition. Things like this run from real people. And we're going to talk about why. They weaponize the ignorance of spineless, integrity-devoid followers talking about the Biden administration didn't release the files, when we know that if the Biden administration would have released the files, Republicans would have just called it a hoax. If the Biden administration had released all of the Epstein files, these people would have just called it a hoax. How do we know that? Because it's being released under the Trump administration and they're still calling it a hoax. It's being released by Trump administration, by Republicans, by Democrats under a Republican-controlled government, and they still call it a hoax. So we can't play dumb with them about why didn't the Biden administration release it. And every Democrat should be saying the truth. The truth is because they never would have believed it. They knew that they should release it, but they knew that they'll wait, and I don't agree with this, but they did it like a chess move. They'll never believe it if we release it, but we'll wait if they get control of the government and we'll push for it to be released because it doesn't make anybody look worse than Trump. And as a party, we don't care if, we do care if the Clintons or anybody else is on there because we want to hold them accountable. We're not trying to protect them. We're not trying to hide them. Like Donald Trump has obviously been trying to do, suppressing these files. No matter what we're about to hear, this little cotton candy wisp puff of a human, closeted individual lie about, nobody's falling for it. He just get up there and says words because they weaponize the ignorance. We're going to talk about the ignorance because these people ignore. They ignore the truth that Trump is giving Ghislaine special treatment. They will ignore and just repeat these lies that this disgusting individual is going to be telling, as we see. Again, we know that they would have called it a hoax if the Biden administration released it because they're calling it a hoax now. Okay, but not all of them. There are enough people in this cult who still aren't all the way brainwashed down the rabbit hole who are like, I can't go along with that. And we might watch some of them too. One of them is Ian Carroll, the Valhalla channel. Dude was a Green Beret or an Army Ranger, if I believe. But they're looking at this, and half their, probably 90% of their followers are MAGA, and they're saying, y'all, Candace Owens is one. They're like, this dude is hiding something. He does not want these files to come out. He is doing everything he can to prevent it. What does he have to hide? But if Biden would have released it, all of those same people would be calling it a hoax. Everybody would be calling it a hoax. And so you can see by the people who are calling it a hoax today that if it would have come out under Biden, they all would have been saying it was a hoax. So we're going to hear him say, why didn't they release it under Biden? Okay, and we've just talked about that because they would have just said, this is a Democrat hoax. They're trying to discredit Trump. It's all fake news. We're not going to play dumb. Okay, we all know. They know, the people in the cult know, anybody listening to this knows that that's true, that they would have called it a hoax if Biden would have released it, and they would have been able to deal with it in one fell swoop. It would have not even stayed in the news cycle. It would have been so easy for them to manipulate their followers if Biden had released that information. Their followers are trained parrots or cheerleaders, okay? Think about parrots just repeating everything they know so you'll give them a cracker. Think about cheerleaders just doing cheers on command. They don't write the cheers. They don't really care. They're just doing their job. They're a cheerleader. They repeat the cheers. This is a MAGA follower. And why do they just repeat whatever they've been trained to say? In exchange for money, a corrupt religion, or both. They repeat whatever they're told. It doesn't matter how absurd, dishonest, or disgusting it is. They are just cheerleaders or parrots playing their roles, doing their jobs, in exchange for money and or corrupt religion. This is why we can't ever take anything they say at face value. Instead, we have to address the root issues of ignorance and weakness. The ignorance and weakness are not permanent conditions, but when people are stuck in a state of weakness or ignorance, they can't be themselves, they can't use their free will, they have to conform, and the reason that they have to conform and be someone they're not even really truly inside is for money or corrupt religion. If we don't address the root issues of the ignorance and weakness that lead to these people doing what they know is wrong and justifying it with money or a corrupt religion, then we're just going to have to keep dealing with this fire hose of BS that they spray every day. 10,000 lies that they spread around our community every day. If we don't deal with the root causes of where it's coming from. This is why anybody supporting MAGA is trading their integrity for self-delusion. They're trading their integrity, they're trading their free will in exchange for self-delusion, getting to pretend that they're something that they aren't. Like any other addict, they fear reality and they refuse to take accountability for their own choices. They do not take accountability for their own choices. They either tell themselves they're doing it for money, that they're doing it for a corrupted version of religion, and they turn their mind off. They don't think about it any further than that. And again, you can only be in that state if you are first in a state of weakness or ignorance. Because only being weak or ignorant would you give up your free will to corrupt leaders, to corrupt cults, to corrupt groups, to weak and manipulative groups who deny truth, who deny liberty, who deny love. You would only submit to that if you are weak or ignorant. Again, not permanent conditions. This is not insulting you if you are MAGA. It's telling you the truth, like any drug addict. You are hooked because you're too weak to stand up for yourself and to do what's right for your body and your mind and your health and society. You're too ignorant to know any better because you've been ignoring things for so long. And we love you enough to tell you the truth. We're not going to pretend you're something you're not. That's why you need a cult. You like this group of people who don't even believe you, but they're just pretending along with you that you're something that you're not. When you're ready to admit that you're weak and ignorant and it doesn't feel good, and that you are giving up your free will for money or a corrupt religion, and you want to weigh out and you want to actually be who you are as a person and use your free will, the greatest gift you could have as a human being is your free will, and you have to give it up to be pieces of shit like this. To become a piece of shit like this, you have to give up your free will and submit. This is one of the most closeted people in America. He cannot be himself because of money, his pursuit of money, and a corrupt religion. And so he's full of rage, and he doesn't care if he lies, because that's not what it's about. He is a cheerleader. He is a parrot doing what he's told for money and corrupt religion. We will forgive any of them who admit that they were conned. This is the conditioning. Some people are pulled into a state of weakness and ignorance because they were conditioned by bad influences, by weak influences, by the wrong rabbit holes of the internet. They were conditioned to be so weak and ignorant that they would give up their free will to turn the other way when pieces of shit like this lie for PDFs. We're going to get into that and exactly how despicable and weak and ignorant and pathetic these people are who support Donald Trump. But you could be conditioned and raised into that. But at some point, that's why people like me, like many people in society, are here to say, wake up. Whatever, we don't care what jersey you are. We don't care red jersey, blue jersey. Shut up with the jerseys. Tell me what you stand for. We stand for liberty, truth, and love because everybody wants those things for themselves. Any of you watching want those things for yourselves. And the way that you can tell good men apart from evil men is evil men want these things for themselves, but they try to deny them to other people. And they try to control those people, and they try to take control of those people's free will. They try to steal other people's liberty. They try to suppress truth. They try to deny love. You cannot stand for these principles in MAGA. You will be attacked. Marjorie Taylor Greene does not even stand for these principles, but she stands for truth on one single issue, and you see how they treat them. They will attack and eat their own the minute they stand for any of these things on any issue at any time, because the whole point of this cult is if you can make people deny that which they want themselves, you can make them do anything. You can make them turn the other way as a PDF. Weak, spineless, McDonald's-made, disgusting sexual assault felon con man takes control of their democracy. You can make them turn the other way. because they've already turned the other way, that they live against the principles that they want for themselves, and they live in hypocrisy. So real men and women of society have to call to the people who have been conditioned into this state, who never made a choice to sacrifice their integrity, but were indoctrinated, educated poorly, or never educated at all, and found themselves in this and are realizing they don't want to go along with it. That's when we are here to say they are not permanent conditions if you use your free will to stand up for what you know is right. And we can disagree about immigration, economics, everything. We can disagree in everything as long as we agree on these things. We could be any jersey color and be brothers and sisters if we just put these things first. Why? Because we all want them. So how could we deny them to others? And getting into the fire hose of bullshit that we're going to get into when I get the work in today and we listen and react to these videos, you will see why we have to talk about this, because they want to distract from all of this, which is the root cause. How do you get a mass of people to do what they know is wrong, to justify doing evil? You use money and or corrupt religion to motivate people who are in a state of weakness or ignorance. This is the issue that good and decent people of society who actually care about cleaning it up have to address. Not all of the distraction. We're going to react to all the distraction, but we talk about the big picture first so that I can reinforce why getting engaged in all of the 10,000 distractions keeps us in this perpetual cycle. It keeps a huge part of our population weak and ignorant when they don't have to be. And it is in all of our best interests for as much of society to be strong and intelligent as possible. All of our lives are better the more of our society is strong and intelligent. And 99% of them are capable of being strong and intelligent in the way that we're defining them. And strength means the strength to live by your own free will and not be afraid. To not be afraid to be yourself and say what you truly believe. Because all of the hate, all of the evil, that's not what anybody truly believes. That is poured into them. That is conditioned into them. That is used as bait to get them to give up their free will for money and or a corrupt religion. They only wear that jersey because they're incentivized to, and they're not shown a better path. Why? Because humans' natural state is to be brothers, to be sisters, until something pollutes that. Until something comes in and gives them a reason to hate, people love other people. So we identify a whole movement that takes this condition of weakness or ignorance and keeps people sick, like pharmaceutical companies or drug dealers getting people hooked on drugs. We have to talk about it. We have to say, this is the root cause. All of this that we're going to see is the drug dealer and big pharma and MAGA doing everything they can to say, look over here, look over here, look over here, look over here. Don't look here. Do not look at the root causes. Because when we say these aren't permanent conditions, we are telling people who are caught up in this, who are like, man, I don't even like this jersey anymore. I don't like where this team has gone. I never meant to be somebody on the team supporting PDFs. We show them that there's a path out of it, and that, hey, it's not all these 10,000 things are distractions. This is where they got you. And I know from talking to so many of these people, from growing up with these people, this is always accurate. I could talk to anybody who wanted to come in and chat, who wanted to call into the show and support MAGA, and we would find their state of weakness or ignorance, and we would find that they're motivated by money and or corrupt religion to justify doing evil in the name of MAGA. And we're just here to say it doesn't have to be that way. We will forgive people when they admit they were conned or conditioned, when they apologize, and when they agree to support the same universal principles of love, liberty, and truth that they want for themselves, for everybody else who is peaceful. If you want these principles for yourself, why would you deny them to any other human being who's peaceful, who's not doing harm? Only for some corrupt motivation that is always going to look like money or a corrupt version of religion. The pursuit of religion is pure. It's the pursuit of truth. It's the pursuit of love. That's where religion comes from. But we all know how corrupt, organized, especially white, evangelical, and Catholic organized religion is. All we have to do is just look at the court cases and see that those are the roots of where the most PDFs are convicted by juries of their peers. Come from Catholic churches, white evangelical churches, far more than any other demographic. And the way that you can get people to look the other way is by they are in a state of weakness and ignorance, so they won't stand up for the truth. They won't stand up for their own free will because they might have been conditioned or indoctrinated. These are not permanent conditions, but they are what they are. And when they're in that state, they can then be incentivized with money or corrupt religion to justify looking the other way as people do evil or doing evil themselves. Just like the story of Abraham killing his son in the Bible, Isaac, but he was going to kill his son because he thought God told him to. These people will justify any, and that's a corrupt version of religion. When you think you're about to off a child because some deity told you to, that is a corrupt religion. And that is why people will do evil things and justify it from a place of ignorance, because you would have to be ignorant to think that a deity wants you to harm a child. You would have to be weak and ignorant to be so afraid of a deity that you can't see, that isn't actually talking to you, that you would take the life of a child. You have to be weak and ignorant and have a corrupt religion. And now we see how we're about to see Mike Johnson doing evil with a poker face, like he could not care less. But this man has lived his whole life in the closet. He is used to being a liar because he has been weak his whole life, because he's never been allowed to express his free will and just be his gay self. And now he seeks money and corrupt religion, and so he defends MAGA. He, like a parrot, like a cheerleader, simply repeats what he's told for the influence of money and corrupt religion from his weakness. Because he can't be who he wants to be. He's never been strong enough to be who he wants to be. And from his ignorance, because he has never educated himself or learned how to be an authentic human being, how to be strong enough to live with his own free will. And because we know that Mike Johnson wants liberty, truth, and love for himself, he denies them to others on a daily basis on behalf of MAGA. He lives in hypocrisy. He lives in doing unto others what he would not want done to him, and he justifies it because he lives in the closet, so he thinks, who cares if other people have their free will taken away? I have to live in denial of my free will every day. And so we all see who these people are. We all know. We have to stop playing dumb with them. And with that, I'm going to get to work for the day, get my work in, and react to some of these videos. And with what we've talked about, the big picture, that this is the problem, not the lies he's about to tell. But we're going to address the lies just to prove how shamelessly they lie and what addicts of a cult will do for money and corrupt religion. All right.
Days, the Democrats held this House and the entire country hostage. Finally, with the lights back on, this body's returning to our regular legislative session. We have a lot of work to do. My colleagues on this side of the chamber are ready and eager to get back to our urgent legislative work.
So Jamie Raskin is going to go in on him when he gets done, just to let you know. Anybody else who watches this and just becomes, He's just going to lie and lie and lie. And it's maddening, because you know that the followers, like parrots, like cheerleaders, are going to repeat all of these lies he's about to tell. But I'm going to front end these lies with saying, listen, the whole time he's talking about this, understand that he's going to say the Biden administration could have released the files. But we talked about in the beginning of this video, they would have all called it a hoax. If the Biden administration released this, they would have all called it a hoax. Because it's coming out under Trump, you have people like Candace Owens, the Ian guy that, 90% of his fan base is MAGA. Ian, whatever his name, he pretends to be neutral, but he always has kissed MAGA's ass. You got Candace Owens, you've got him, you've got Nick Fuentes, other MAGA people who helped Trump get elected, who have millions of followers. Because this is coming out under Trump, they believe it, okay? And then you still have your diehard MAGA who they believe it, but they have to pretend that they don't, for everything that we've talked about. So when he's going to act like he's going to say, oh, the Democrats could have released it under Biden. No, we all know everybody would have called it a hoax. All those people I just named who are saying, well, no, we actually believe it because it's coming out under the Trump administration, all of those people would have said it was a hoax if Biden had released it. So that's that. Then he's going to act like he's trying to protect victims. He's going to act like the Republicans want to protect victims. Let's start out with the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell went from one of the most horrible prison conditions you could have because of what she was convicted of doing by a jury, went from one of the worst prison states, and then met with Trump's former personal attorney, who he gave a government position, Todd Blanche, and then immediately got one of the most cushy, actually an unheard of prison condition. She has her own dog. She has a workout person. She gets whatever food she wants. And he cares about the victims. They're giving one of the most prolific PDF child predators we've ever convicted the most cushy prison, and Trump's going to pardon her. And he's going to sit here and tell these idiots that they care about victims because he knows they'll just repeat it. They don't care that it's a lie. They know it's a lie, but they will repeat it. And this is why we shouldn't take any of this at face value. We should talk about the root cause. That how do you get people to repeat what they know is evil? Money or corrupt religion. And okay, he's going to talk about they care about the victims. Meanwhile, none of them care that Trump has given Ghislaine Maxwell the cushiest prison life you could ever have. They won't say a peep about it. They won't even address the question. They just ignore it because they know their followers will ignore it. Ignorance. Ignorance. Okay? They know who their followers are. They know that they understand their marching orders. They know that this is all BS, but I'm showing you why they go along with it anyway, and that people like him use it to bog down liberals, to bog down Democrats in the fire hose of bullshit and not stop and say, wait a minute, these are the root causes. It's not these 10,000 things like protecting victims of the Epstein files that we all know is a lie, okay? And we know it's a lie because they don't care that Ghislaine Maxwell is going to be pardoned, that she has a cushy prison life. And number two, the victims are literally holding press conferences saying they want this bill passed from months ago to yesterday. But he doesn't talk about them at all. He talks about the victims, but not that the victims literally had a press conference yesterday saying, pass this bill. He is also going to pretend that of course all Republicans support this, when the truth is only 4 of them did, and when Trump was unable to threaten those 4, 2 of which were women, when he was unable to bully them into going along with what he wanted, they all had to flip the script and change and pretend that they support it. But again, it's easy to see through because they don't care about Ghislaine getting a cushy prison sentence. They don't care that Trump is going to pardon her. They don't care about the content of these emails where Jeffrey Epstein says Trump is one of the worst human beings he's ever known. And so when Mike Johnson talks about all this, you can just see it through the lens of what a shameless, spineless, cotton candy bitch of a man looks like, lying his ass off like a parrot, like a trained cheerleader, pursuing money and corrupt religion.
We promised the American people we would do. We've got to continue lowering the cost of health care. We've got to bring down prices for American families, and we've got to finish the regular appropriations process, just to name a few of those priorities. And I wish I could say that our first order of business would be to get to those urgent priorities, but of course we're here spending time on the floor about something else. This is something we could have resolved last week when we brought a unanimous consent to pass this discharge with the full support of the body. But our friends over here who are arguing today stalled that. They objected to it, and they wanted.
Do you know why the Democrats blocked unanimous consent? Because they wanted every single lawmaker on record being forced to vote yes or no on this discharge petition. They wanted to take the easy way out because they were constantly looking to defend or protect their members, who in turn are looking to defend or protect pedophiles. Get these people on record. Unanimous consent is a joke. Get these people individually on record having to vote for this thing.
Very young. And it is a heroic service to the country. They are seeking justice, and the justice has been delayed for too long. The Department of Justice, many years ago, should have brought these charges. It took too long to do it. And now we're in this process of making sure all the American people get the information, but we have to do it in the right way. After 4 years of Democrat control under President Biden, they were not truthful with us about a lot of things. The Democrats insisted the border was secure. We know it wasn't. They insisted that inflation was transitory. We knew it wouldn't be. They misled the American people about the obvious mental and physical decline of the previous commander-in-chief. And now those same Democrats are demanding transparency. Suddenly, transparency is the new word. Out of nowhere, they've taken a curious concern in the Epstein investigation, all in the name of that, in the name of transparency. But the question has been asked here many times during the debate on the floor, and everybody questioning why it is the Democrats have done this right now have to look at the obvious facts. The Democrats had all the Epstein files in their possession for 4 long years under the Biden presidency. The Biden Department of Justice had these files, and no one on this side who is breathless today about the urgency of this release ever said a word about it.
We already talked about
It was
why.
the Democrats who could have urged President Biden's Department of Justice to go beyond prosecuting just Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, but they didn't do it. And so it's a fair question to ask today, why now? Why the sudden urgent interest in Jeffrey Epstein? Look, we know why. It's because the Democrats were never interested in transparency or executing justice or protecting the victims of this unspeakable tragedy before. The simple truth is obvious for everybody to see. This is a political exercise for Democrats. And it pains me to say it. I wish that was not the truth, but it is. And it's undeniable. This is as deceitful and dishonest as their pointless stunt was to shut the government down. Democrats are using the Epstein tragedy, the unspeakable evils that this guy committed with his trafficking ring and all of the abuses that they made these young women go through. They're using that as a political weapon to try to distract from their failures as a party and to try their best.
You know, the irony of Mike Johnson lamenting all of the terrible things that have happened to these girls is that he was the sole impediment in the House to making sure that they got the justice that he's pretending that he wants to deliver to them. He was the sole impediment to the House. He kept the House out of session early, refused to allow Adelina Grijalva to be sworn in for over a month, the longest, I believe the longest time that we've had a representative-elect out of office. He is the reason that there is no transparency and there is no accountability. So for him to stand there and claim that this is the fault of the Democrats, who have been united and who even brought over Republican defectors like Thomas Massie, Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Nancy Mace, while he was the one blocking it, is fully indicative, fully a testament to the shamelessness that these people traffic in.
Yielded for us Epstein's own personal flight logs, his financial records, his daily calendars, and so much more. But importantly, none of that was addressed or is addressed in the legislation that's being voted on today. the estate files wouldn't even have been encompassed in that. And so it goes to show that the Oversight Committee is doing it the right way. From the very beginning, we've been insistent that this matter be handled carefully and with the utmost caution and care for the people who have been harmed. They should not be made to suffer any longer. We're talking about real people's lives at stake here, and young victims who don't want to be dragged into this political game that could get hurt further. But the Democrats are rushing the release of thousands of unsubstantiated documents that may be included in this, that are going to be in the public domain with the passage of this bill. And there are serious deficiencies in the legislation that I have noted at length, and Republicans have to work to address those deficiencies in the Senate if and when this legislation is advanced. I stood before the American public today at our press conference, and I explained in detail the dangers of the discharge petition. We have posted at my website, speaker.gov, a summary. The legal counsel, a small army of lawyers, put this together. I used to be a federal court litigator. Many of my colleagues who have spoken today were. We understand the dangers of how this was haphazardly drawn up. And among them, by the way, Mr. Speaker, before I forget, I seek unanimous consent to enter into this document into the record. It's on the website. It's entitled, How the Flaws of H.R. 4405 Could Re-Victimize Epstein's Victims, Create New Victims, and Damage.
The Epstein victims literally held a press conference yesterday, the third or so that they've held in the last couple of months, saying that they want this bill passed, that they support it. But he knows that his followers will just repeat whatever he says. He'll just sit up here and lie.
The judicial system, it is dated today. Thank you. And it summarizes just 5 or 6 of the major concerns. Among them, it fails to fully protect victim privacy. It could create new categories of victims. It potentially jeopardizes grand jury secrecy. It fails to prohibit release of child sexual abuse materials that are not appropriately defined in the legislation. It jeopardizes future federal investigations, and we have national security concerns regarding classified information.
Again, he has nothing to say about Ghislaine Maxwell being given the cushiest prison environment that anybody has ever heard of. He has nothing to say about that. So we see how full of shit he is. But this is a closeted gay man living his whole life as a lie. So telling lies means nothing to him. And he knows that his followers ignore anything that they're supposed to. Ignorance. Without weakness or ignorance, you can't be incentivized to use money and or corrupt religion to justify doing evil. That is the flow chart. They know that they're doing evil, but they're pursuing money or a corrupt religion, and only people who are in a state of weakness or ignorance can be led to do that.
We'll put this in the record because we need the legislative record to reflect what is the legislative intent behind this vote. I used to litigate cases. We would litigate federal statutes and whether or not they could survive, and legislative intent is important. And we need to say clearly for the record, as a Speaker of the House, I'm saying to you, this legislation that will pass today is flawed and it must be amended. The question is, why didn't we amend it here before we passed it? Because the authors won't allow it. Because under the rules of the House, under a discharge petition, they have to agree to consent for the legislation to be amended, and they're not doing that. So now we rely upon our partners in the other chamber to get that done, and they need to do that. The victims deserve our utmost respect. In fact, they should be saluted for their courage. And the young women who have not come forward, who are now, some of them are middle-aged women who have not come forward, also deserve our respect, and they deserve to be protected. Republicans support transparency. We want maximum transparency, especially when it comes to disclosing the names of anybody who had anything to do with these evils, anybody who conspired with or aided in any way Jeffrey Epstein. They must be brought to justice. We want the bill to be amended so it doesn't, at the same time, violate victim privacy, create new victims, disclose the names.
It doesn't violate victim privacy, which is why all of the victims support this bill. I asked this exact question to Ro Khanna because Mike Johnson's been bringing this up constantly. He's using this to plant the seed as a pretext to be able to ask John Thune in the Senate to block the bill because he's saying there's not enough protections for the victims. The victims themselves, the survivors themselves, support the bill as it's written. It was written with them in mind. Again, looking for any excuse to be able to screw up this thing later down the line.
I expect that this will be a unanimous vote, and it will reflect what I think every member in this chamber, and I'll say this now, at least in recent days, every member of the chamber on the Democrat side, they didn't say anything for 4 years, but they're for maximum transparency now, and so is this side. but we want to do it in a respectful and careful manner so that we don't subject innocent people to further harm. And that has been the whole thing. I told all my members today I'll be voting yes on this, and I suspect almost everyone will. We'll send it to the Senate. We hope it's corrected. Thank you for the time, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
See, when he says he hopes it's corrected, what he's looking to do is to delay this thing like he's been doing the whole time. Remember, the only reason we haven't seen this is because Mike Johnson unilaterally has positioned himself as a barrier to the passage of this bill. So now he's saying, oh, there's not enough protections for the survivors, even though, by the way, all of the survivors support this bill and were involved in the bill's ushering through this bill to the point where it is right now. But he's laying the foundation for John Thune to be able to say, oh, we gotta change some things in this bill. Will they put poison pills in the bill in the Senate when they try to pass it back to the House? Who knows? Will it get delayed further and further and further so that Trump can try to figure out some way to block it? Who knows?
Yes, and that's why we're doing this same full body workout every day until they release the files, because they might never release these files. And we will talk about it every day, because what MAGA wants us to do is be conditioned to supporting PDFs and dictators and tyrants and the destruction of the Constitution. They want us to turn away, so we're going to do the opposite. We're going to show up, we're going to talk about it every day that they try to do this bullshit.
Will they eventually just say, oh yeah, it's making its way through the Senate, now it's got to come back to the House because the Senate has fixed it, but meanwhile, Pam Bondi's opened an investigation into Bill Clinton, so we can't release anything because there's an ongoing investigation, and who knows when that investigation is going to end. So do not believe these people when they offer an inch and pretend that they are some champions for transparency.
6 minutes, 15 seconds.
I think 30 is.
We reserve.
Gentleman reserved. Gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
I'll take the opportunity of the Speaker's presence to respond to some of the things that he said. In the very presence of the victims and the survivors who come to join us today, the Speaker said that now would be a time we should be working on urgent legislative work. Mr. Speaker, justice is urgent legislative work. The truth is urgent legislative work.
Hear, hear.
The Speaker says, why now? Why now? Well, Mr. Speaker, you were the one who refused to swear in Adelita Grijalva for 50 days. We would have done it 50 days ago, but she provided the 218th signature on the discharge petition. So why now? It was because of your dilatory tactics, your delay, your postponement of it. Now, the gentleman says that there are not sufficient protections. There are protections in the bill for the victims to make sure that their names will be redacted. And yet we hear even the Speaker of the House of Representatives openly inviting the U.S. Senate to start finger painting on this bill, which we have waited more than 5 months to bring to the floor. The Senate should pass the bill exactly as it's written. The President should sign it exactly as he said he would when he finally changed his mind. And the Epstein file must be released. Moreover, if the President is serious about what he's saying, he's got the power to release the Epstein file right now. Nobody's stopping him. It's within his possession. It's within his control. He can release the whole thing, and he can redact the names of the victims and others who are innocent in this process. Mr. Speaker, Speaker Johnson said that these are unspeakable evils. Well, because of the bravery and the invincible courage of the women who've joined us today,
It's a new device, no larger than a thumb, that could easily...
unspeakable. They're spoken. They're articulated. The cat is out of the bag, and we know what's been going on for decades. It's been a double standard of justice, going all the way back to Alex Acosta, who later got rewarded with a cabinet appointment in the Trump administration. Alex Acosta had a 60-count federal indictment ready to go against all kinds of people for an interstate sex trafficking conspiracy with solicitation, with child sex abuse, all of it. And he traded that 60-count federal indictment for 1 count in state court.
But they won't play any of this on Fox News, And when you are weak and ignore everything in exchange for money or a corrupt religion, you will use that to justify doing what you know is wrong. MAGA knows that they're lying. They know everything that Jamie Raskin, you don't even have to take his word for it. You can look all of this up. You can look up Alex Acosta and what happened to him. But they will ignore it. Why? For money or corrupt religion.
And Jeffrey Epstein ended up getting the sweetest of sweetheart deals ever on the plea bargain front. He was free from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. to do whatever he wanted and continuing to perpetrate his crimes and run his conspiracy, and then he would come and he would watch TV and spend the night in jail. And it was over in about a year after the rape and sexual abuse of hundreds and hundreds of girls, and he kept going and he kept at it. We want the whole truth to come out. This is the United States of America. Even the British monarchy wouldn't put up with this. How about the American democracy? How about we say, no way, we're not going to allow this cover-up to go on for one day more. And I'm glad the president changed his mind after pulling out all the stops to try to get one of our Republican colleagues to change their mind, to remove their name from the discharge petition. He gave up. And I want to salute the gentlelady from Colorado from having the courage to stand her ground in the Situation Room in the White House and say, no, she wasn't going to be bullied. No. So, I'm glad the president changed his mind, but let's be clear, Mr. President, you've got the power today to release the entire file. That's what you called for. That's what Pam Bondi called for. That's what Kash Patel called for. So we don't need anybody calling for the Senate to slow things down for more weeks and more months. The American people have had it. We'll reserve.
Gentlemen, reserves.
That's the irony of this whole process. Like this is a dog and pony show, given the fact that Trump could release them right now. Like when Trump says, "Oh yeah, I'll sign it if it makes its way through the House and the Senate," why even go through these steps? Why not just tell Pam Bondi today, right now, release the...
Because they're going to delay it. It's all lies. We already know it's bullshit. That's why we're going to work out every day until they're actually released. Because they may never get released. And we will work out every day and have a history on YouTube that we never stopped talking about the Epstein files. We never forgot. We will never turn away from PDFs and child predators and traffickers.
Files. If he is actually for transparency, which he claims to be, then he doesn't need to wait for the House to vote. He doesn't need to wait for the Senate to vote. He can just do it. All of this is to circumvent his obstruction.
I work with my Republican colleagues on the House Oversight Committee in coordination with the Justice Department. 65...
Now, getting wound up about it, getting hype about it, is like getting wound up or hype about what a crackhead is saying. It's not going to help. We have to address the root causes. We cannot get hype about these 10,000 lies, these fire hoses of falsehood. We have to go to the source, which is weak and ignorant people being conditioned to follow money or a corrupt religion that they then use to justify doing evil for a jersey, for a church, for a cult. The root conditions, not the 10,000 lies.
1,000 pages of documents that relate.
Even they don't believe the lies. They know that Trump has given Ghislaine Maxwell the cushiest prison condition you could ever have, and they know what that means, but they ignore it. They ignore it. Ignorance. Ignorance.
From Epstein release. What have my Democrat colleagues done? They selectively leaked and altered documents to mislead the American people. As President Trump has stated, we have nothing to hide here. I'm voting to release the files so that we...
All right, let's fast forward. Actually, let's
can move on from this smear campaign. The Democrats have...
Let's check out another video. Check out another video. And take me a second to get there. There's a long playlist of bullshit. Oh, hold on. Nice. It's sorted from... Okay, it's sorted differently now. Alright. This is The Amazing Lucas. Hopefully you guys have seen
They looked like they were
The
leaving.
Amazing Lucas.
And I
Let's listen to what The Amazing Lucas is going to talk about, because again, these liberal commentators take on each one of these 10,000 lies, but they're missing the root causes of what makes people act like Megyn Kelly, act like we're about to see.
Lineage of evil. Oh my goodness. So there was one point in time that I used to believe that, hey, no matter you're Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Independent, no matter your philosophy, your political beliefs, doesn't matter, that we can all agree that messing with kids is bad. Whether they kids, teens, children, whatever you want to call them. That messing with them was bad, okay? Any type of sexual deviancy with these individuals was a bad thing. That we can all agree that's bad. You need to go to the sun. That's what needs to happen. You need to be locked up, you need a chair, you need an injection, whatever. It seems that all of us agree on this, except MAGA.
Come on now, dog.
I don't know what to tell you, but this is a surefire way to know that you're in a cult. If you happen to be on the side where you're trying to run obstacle for, or you're trying to explain when it comes to someone messing with kids, you may be in a cult. I don't know what to tell you. Or you are just completely morally bankrupt. But it really goes to show that Trump was actually right when it comes to his support. How he's talking about how he can shoot someone in the middle of the day and he wouldn't lose a single vote.
They say, I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible.
I used to believe that was hyperbole, but now seeing how they're responding to actual innocent kids being attacked, I genuinely believe that. I believe that these people are done. They are cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. They need to be gone, bro. They need to be going to a different country, a different planet, because we can't live around people who are trying to co-sign abusing the youth. They want to talk about transgender. They want to talk about the LGBT propaganda. I hear you, but all of that, okay? If you want to scream all of that, oh, they're abusing the kids. They're trying to, brainwashing them. If you believe all that, but then when we have a whole bunch of evidence of what people are doing on an island of trafficking these individuals, women and children, and you don't care about it anymore, you can miss me with that nonsense, all right? You can miss me completely with that nonsense.
A distraction. Just ridiculous.
This whole Epstein files thing, a little bit played out.
And I think it's a moment in time where it should be a sobering effect on millions of people to understand that we don't have news. This is not news. This is mere entertainment / propaganda.
He's out of line, but he's right.
I never thought in a million years, listen, I'm being genuine, I never thought in a million years that when it came to uncovering a child trafficking ring, that there would be a United States president who would say, don't worry about it.
Because it's a Democrat hoax. It's just a hoax. The whole Epstein thing is a Democrat hoax.
What?
They ran on, hey, we're going to release the files, we're going to release the files. Dan Bongino, freaking Cash Patel, oh, we're going to get to the bottom of this. We know that that's not what happened to Epstein.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list.
You say that the FBI has Epstein's list, they're sitting on it. Why is the FBI protecting the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list. You don't think that Bill Gates is lobbying Congress night and day to prevent the disclosure of that list?
Some governments around the world may...
Bitch-made motherfuckers. Please, show them this. Bring them to me. Dan Bongino, Cash Patel, whatever you want. These fucking bitches that kneel to this shit will never face real men. They hide in their little studios and talk about the Epstein files, and then they get put in the position to do something about it. But the person who put them in that position is the most exposed by it, so now they have to take a knee to the McDonald's maid, sexually assaulting, felonious conman, beta male Donald Trump, and they do it with smiles on their faces.
Have some material that's related to the Epstein thing. Bill Clinton was knee deep in this, man.
So that was a fucking lie.
As soon as they get sworn in, as soon as they sit their butts in the chair, well, yeah, that is the story. That's what happened. He did it to himself. That's what happened. He got Pam Bondi. Yeah, the files are on my desk. Well, I meant that metaphorically.
But the point again is nobody believes this. There is no point in getting wound up about it when you see that Dan Bongino and Kash Patel are weak and ignorant men who will sacrifice their free will for money and or a corrupt religion. Then it makes sense. Then you don't have to get wound up about it. You just call it what it is, but we have to shine a light on it. We have to make sure that the youth or people who were brought into a state of weakness and ignorance through conditioning or indoctrination have a chance to see through it. That's why we do what we do. That's why we're here. That's why Amazing Lucas is important. Anybody doing their best to shine a light on every form that the weakness and ignorance and money seeking and religion, corrupt religion seeking yields the fruit of all of that, which is rotten. We have to show their kids a way out, okay? Because their children are innocent, but they're raised in this bullshit. And it is up to decent people of society to shine a light and say, you were raised by a weak and ignorant group, and that's why you are weak and ignorant. If you want a path out, you have to stand up for the principles that you want for yourself. And it's more complicated than that, but that's what we're here for. We're here to help anybody. We're not selling anything. We will never take any sponsors. That is the difference between real, decent people of society and these fucking grifters. Kash Patel and Dan Bongino was selling, there were ads all over their screen. Their whole point is to just use this story of the Epstein files to seek money for themselves. And we see it because as soon as they got in a position of status, they don't need the viewers or the clicks anymore, so they don't talk about Epstein anymore. That's all they were doing it for. They never cared. They never gave two shits. They were always trying to sell something to the weakest and most ignorant people.
Speaking and bruh, this should really show you that America is really no different than a lot of other countries. And I mean that in a way not to say, oh, I hate America. I mean that in a way to say, like, the way many Americans view America, we should probably take a few steps back. we should probably just be a little more calm and sober with our understanding of how this country is run. Because really the only difference is it's not in the public. You may go to Russia and other places, and if you do something, they'll execute you right in public, right? They'll chop off your head in the public, like, hey, this is why this person's getting their tongue removed. This is what's going on. In America, they're a little more, I don't know, it's a little more entertainment, right? Oh, Princess Diana got in a car accident. Oh no, he ate some bad tuna and died. Oh, that's so sad, right? That's where we are. And leave it to Trump to really even remove that veil. The emperor is butt naked, and they're telling everyone he has clothes on. You have Jesse Waters, saying that, hey, why do we care about old emails?
For a party that claims to care about affordability, they sure waste a lot of time on old emails.
You don't need to see his identification.
I'm sorry, what? You're saying literally, verbatim almost, the same thing that people were talking about when it came to Hillary Clinton's emails, okay? The same thing. What do we care about emails? Like, so what? What does it matter? That's what they're saying. But the big difference is that trafficking. And they're trying to downplay emails, bruh. Emails, bruh, from regarding trafficking. You have Trump in one of the emails talking about, hey, he may have, gave some sloppy top to Bubba. I don't know who Bubba's referring to, but what you mean you giving sloppy top to Bubba and they got videos of this and it's like, hey, does Putin have Trump giving...
Just a sick world we live in, sick people.
Because you have even Epstein talking about, hey, this guy's the worst thing ever. He's talking about Trump. Now, how bad do you have to be for a child trafficker to say that, hey, you are the worst thing ever, you ain't got a good cell in your body? What? And you still screaming MAGA? Huh? You know what? When I see stuff like this, it leads me to a dark area, bro. It leads me to a dark area, I'm not gonna lie. Where it's like, it seems that all the conspiracies that people are talking about the government and how they planted this and how they did that, and how blackmail is so important and such a viable means of leverage, it's starting to feel like a bit real, okay? Because I think we all forgot what happened to Matt Gaetz. And the person he was messing with was 17. And she was trying to get braces. This chick was selling her body to get braces, fam. This is where we're at. And you saw the cover they tried to do for Matt Gaetz. When I think about all this trafficking...
They don't care.
Okay, when I think about the Epstein and everything...
They don't care.
You can't tell me that people in Congress, okay, our representatives don't know anything about it. Damn. You can't tell me that many of these people, whether Republican or Democrat, are not the same people who are aiding and abetting this trafficking. Damn. It's like George Carlin said, it's a big party, you're not involved. I don't want to be a part of this party, to be honest with you. I got no